Hey, y'all.
Hello.
How's
Hi.
it going?
Not bad.
We are back. Welcome to Wealthy and Worthy Wednesday. Okay, we're gonna give it a minute and let everybody load on in. I'm trying to make sure I can see all the things. And something is weird happening because I see two screens and I don't like it. Let's see how I can.
Not the two-screen nightmare. Oh no.
Yeah, I don't I don't love it. Let me try to figure it out. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, y'all. Hey, we are live. Okay, so I want to make sure that I keep us on track today, and also want to make sure that we kind of level set, right? Each week we come on and we talk about different topics. And this week, so last week we talked about how do you navigate scenarios where you love the work, you're passionate about the work, but you don't love the people. so and so we talked a lot about, pivoting and what that looks like, and how do we, show ourselves worthy, right, in these different scenarios. And we had the experts here. And so today, we're shifting it a little bit, but really kind of continuing still the conversation, because we're talking about support and what type of support women need as high impact women, right? Working in big roles, maybe running businesses or corporations. And so we really want to speak to that this week. Okay. So before we jump in, Stephanie's not here with us today. So I'm going to ground us in some data. All right. So we want to make sure that we define the things all the time. Right. So according to a research study that was recently published by the Harvard Business Review, high performing women are significantly more likely to experience burnout. And it's not because it's not a personal deficit, right? So it's not resilience or grit, but it is because they're more likely to operate in environments where they are both highly visible and under supported. In other words, your issue is not capacity, right? Or capability. It's actually structure and environment. All right. And so we can see this show up across multiple dimensions, right? We can see it show up psychologically. We can see it in that regard, right? Women are expected to be collaborative, emotionally aware, and high performing all at the same time. We may even see it where women are, trying to meet these leadership demands, but their bodies are operating in chronic stress cycles without proper or adequate recovery, right? We also see it structurally, where women are frequently navigating careers where the system or the systems around time, money, and advancement just aren't aligned or created with their leadership style in mind, right? So what happens? What happens when we see that? We see women automatically assuming that they must become stronger. They have to get better at discipline. They need stronger routines. They need maybe stronger boundaries for themselves. But what we want to offer up for you today is the idea that your breakthrough is not in becoming stronger, it's in choosing better. So that is what the conversation is about today. We're talking about safe spaces that can hold your next level, because ambition alone is not what's burning you out. It is ambition without support. All right. So we're going to head on into the first question of the discussion today. And that question is, what kind of support do ambitious women actually need in order to sustain their next level without burnout? And we're going to have the experts share it from each of their perspectives. So either one of you care to go first, Dr. J or Jeannie, to open up the conversation? Jump right on in.
Sure, I don't mind going in. What do ambitious women need, to be supported psychologically in these spaces? I can tell you what they absolutely do not need. They don't need to feel controlled. They don't need to feel disempowered as they utilize their work. They need to be assured the confidence that they have the fluidity and they can live inside their own cadence of collaboration. They need to feel like they can choose. They need to feel like they have dignity in their work and that they're trusted to have integrity in their work. People function extremely well in all environments when they feel psychologically safe. And psychological safety comes with respect, comes with, feeling that they are trusted, feeling, as a whole that they are seen inside of their capabilities.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I love that. I love that, right? I love that you named the psychological safety, but I also love that you named like being seen, like in the fullness of who you are. Like that's really important. And whether that's work or otherwise, that is really essential for just overall well-being as a human being. So I love that so much. And what about you, Dr. J? Like, what does it look like when a woman's body, the wholeness of who she is actually supported and not constantly overridden as she seeks to grow?
Yes. So with that, a woman has more energy, right? There are not all these like energy peaks and valleys throughout the day. She is sustained, right? She has the ability to pace herself throughout the day because as ambitious women, sometimes we want to do the things, we need to get the things done. And that requires our energy and it requires that we support our bodies in a way that allows us to do the things that we want to do. So we have to make sure from I would say even first from just like a mental aspect that we are identifying what our intentions are for the day, right? Just being really specific, like what do I want to accomplish in the day? Do I want to do these things because I feel like I need to do all these things? Or do I want to do these things because this is really where I am at this stage in my life right now? And I'm going to be very intentional about this. And so, interestingly enough, also, I have, and it comes to mind, I'm thinking of a specific client that I have, because her health was something that she wanted to work on, right? And before she would just go to restaurants and she's a very, she's an extrovert. So when her friends say, "Hey, let's go out," she's like, "Yeah, let's go out." She realized though that the restaurants that she was going to really, really were not aligned with the health choices she wanted to make in her life, right? And so, she started taking some of that lead, like, okay, I'm going to be intentional about the type of restaurants that I go to, even places where I socialize, right? And so it requires, number one, having that intentionality of doing things that support our bodies, our minds, where we are in specific seasons of our life from a nutritional aspect. This high achieving lady, sometimes we just go, 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 and then we forget to eat. Okay, so breakfast, at least get your breakfast in. All right, so you can make. Jeannie's raising her hand. Okay, we just listen. We just get on the Zoom call. It's just like get the coffee and that's it. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to stop. Allocate time to nutritionally support yourself, so
Yeah.
that you can have sustenance and in the work that you're doing, because especially for the women that we speak to, we are high impact, high intentional women, and so with that we also have to make sure that we are supporting ourselves in a way that allows us to create that level of impact, right? And
Yeah.
so making sure that, okay, listen, I'm going to take time for my breakfast this morning because I'm looking at my schedule and it's going to be a busy day, but I'm going to make sure that my body is well supported so that I am clear in my communication style when I am on my Zoom meetings, that I'm able to delegate tasks effectively to my team. And so that is important to make sure that we have that nutritional sustenance. And then from an activity perspective, physical activity does not have to be difficult, right? It's also finding ways to incorporate that into our day. In this day and age where everything has been remote, sometimes it's easy to just sit all day. We sit in all day, right? And so you're considered sedentary if you get less than 5,000 steps a day. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so I say, listen, if you're sitting down most of the day and not moving, and you get 5,000 steps plus 5,001 steps, that's a win, right? And so what does that look like for you? Does it mean that you have to get a walking pad? Does that mean that you have to put it on your schedule to remind yourself to move? Hey, just get up and just move throughout your day. Because just like also, that is also impairing your quality of life and your longevity just by sitting alone. So just making sure that we are getting active and allocating that time to move. It does not have to be, I'm going to CrossFit 7 days a week. Okay. It doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't have to look like we lift in the heaviest of weights. You know, we have to think about the seasons of life that we're in and say, okay, what is realistic for me in this season? Right? What is realistic for me is if you are remote and you're at home and you're really not getting any steps in, maybe your first step is just going for a walk. You know, let's say before I get on my call or after my call, I'm going on a 20-minute walk. Maybe you can take your phone calls on your walk. Okay, listen.
No, seriously, I love a good walk and talk.
Listen,
I love a good walk and talk.
on your walk. Instead
Yeah.
of sitting down on the Zoom call, maybe that can be an option for you.
So good.
You know,
So
you can listen
good.
to the podcast too on your walk, right? And so, you know, because we like to, you know, we like to keep our minds moving and do all the things, but you don't have to do everything sitting down. And so making sure that we are allocating activity in our day, and then bring our families. I always say bring our families along the journey, right? Because we are also not living in isolation. You know, if many of you are moms, you know, bringing your kids on the walk, because then you get to set an example of what it looks like. Because, you know, especially, and I love speaking to moms, and because, you know, we do set examples for, you know, our children. And I don't have kids yet, but like I'm going to be a mom. So I'm always I'm already in that mindset. I'm already in that mindset as already, because I want to set an example for my child when I have children. Like, let me do this now. Let me curate these habits now so that I can be an example for my child, so she doesn't see a woman that's all stressed out all the time and, you know, always any energy crash, like having energy crashes. Because when you are nutritionally depleted, when you are not getting physical activity in, you know, that also leads to stress, and that can lash out like to your family, right? So if mommy is like mommy, and you're like, wait, I told you.
Well, I think that's, yeah, absolutely.
You probably need some food, you know.
Something. Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, speaking of,
you know, and so just and so that also allows it to come full circle, right? Because we are setting the example to our families, and that also helps to foster better relationships. Because if we're nutritionally sustained, we're, you know, getting energy, physical activity in, we're energized, we're able to think clearer, we're able to be sharper, right? And so you want to be able to set that example as well.
Absolutely. And I love that. Incredible. All you said, like, check it, write it. I sustain, right? But I wanted to hear, you know, from you, Dr. Tiana, because you know, Dr. J's talking about these huge habits that women need to get into to ensure, you know, that they're sustaining their ambition. But like, you've got the structural on lock. You know, what systems around money, around time, around career positioning make it possible for them, you know, to grow and feel stable instead of exhausted? I just want to hear from you and make sure we get your side.
No, that's great. That's great. Man, it's all, to me, it's all in what you said, Jay, is in the systems, right? Like, it's it's paying attention and then being intentional, as Dr. J just mentioned, right? Of what season are you in, taking that inventory, right? In science, we call that data collection, right? So we're we're collecting the data, we're looking at the data and making meaning of the data, right? So what do I need to do? What's working? What's not working? Maybe where do I need to adjust, right? And then once you have that data objectively, right, then you make those decisions based on what your priorities are. Like Dr. J mentioned, right? Like, what do you value in this season, right? What are the things that help keep you anchored and feeling that sustainability? Like Dr. J said, you're not having those crashes. You're not, being extra spicy or, having attitudes, all the things, right? And so once you do that, it becomes much more of a rhythm. You'll find a rhythm in that season, right? So I'll give you an example of how it sometimes shows up for me, right? Working out. It's just always been a part of my life, right? This season that I'm in with my back injury and rehabbing, I'm down to 3, sometimes 4 times a week, right? Where I'm actually able to work out, right? Many of those days, it gets interrupted by my toddler, right? But instead of not doing it, right? Like it actually happened this Saturday. My husband was traveling. It was just the two of us here. And of course, it was mommy all morning, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to still invest in myself. So you know what I did? Worked out in the middle of his mess. Right? Like I got my resistance band, I'm doing my lunges, I'm doing my squats, like it is what it is, right? And at the end of it, I was so proud of myself because I was like, you know what? Done is better than perfect, right? And so I was able to commit that time to myself, right? Invest in myself, right? And show him again, like Dr. J mentioned, show him that mommy is doing something that she really enjoys doing, right? And mommy is being strong and making sure that she's showing up for herself, because you moms, hear me when I say this, okay? You love your family best when you love you most. Okay. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. I know how hard it is to want to do all the things and be all the things, but you are no good to your family if you are no good to yourself. And this mindset has to happen in order for you to be able to sustain the level of success, the level of wealth, whatever it is that you're trying to acquire and obtain in your life. That you have to be the anchor by which all of those things flow and function, right? So I want you to be thinking done versus perfect, right? A little mindset shift, but it's a really critical piece, and it's going to help you be able to push through when you have the resistance. And it's going to help you not get lost in the sauce, right? And kind of get bogged down by all the details that you feel like need to be mapped out, right? Like I see you type A, like I am you, right? But I want to let you know that there is still a way forward, right? There's still a way forward, and we can still get the things done. So that's what we got. All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that question, Jay.
Really nice. Oh yeah, of course. We have some comments coming in, just so I can
Okay,
just want to
let's
read a
see.
couple. Stephanie, who couldn't be with us this week, but she says your breakthrough is choosing better. And she quoted you and saying, working out in the middle of a mess. She said, it's such a word.
Yes.
Clock it. It's Dr. Nikki said earlier.
Come on, y'all.
So
we
good.
gotta do it. You gotta do it. Which is also, you guys, like speaking of safe spaces, right? This is also why it's so important to be in community, right? Because I didn't adapt that lifestyle just because I thought it was a great idea. No, I hired a trainer, I got in community, and I don't, at this point, I don't, but I, for a long time, worked out with other moms, right? Because we were working towards the same thing. We valued the same things. And so that is how you really grow. Community is what supercharges your success. And I know that y'all are competent and capable, but y'all are out here suffering in isolation, and it has to stop. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not going to just magically arrive at your front door. You actually have to be paying attention and be intentional about putting yourself into intentional communities that allow you to grow, that support you while you experiment with new versions of success, with new ways of being. Because what's going to happen, let's break it down just simply biology, right? When you try this new way, your body, which is wired for consistency, is going to freak out. And it's going to be like, whoa, 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 this is new. This is not who we know you to be. And it's going to fight you and say, we could do it tomorrow. Let's start over next week. Let's start over at the New Year's resolution, right? It's going to really like fight to keep you in the familiar. And the reason why community is important is because it will help you push through that initial surprise that you're trying to rewire your brain literally, so that it can communicate to your body, this is safe. We are okay here. We're trying something new. This feels hard because it's different, not because I'm not capable. Right. And so those reinforcements are what help you kind of push through the melee and be able to like show up as this new person that you're trying to be. And so that's really critical, and it's super important, because when you don't understand just our basic biology and how our brains and our bodies work, you think that you're doing something wrong, or you're just not motivated, or you just can't rally. And that's not it at all. So wanting to be able to offer that up to you all, because I see a lot of my clients struggle with that, and they feel like, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should make a different choice, or maybe working out just isn't for me. And it's not real. It's not real. So it's not a coaching session. Okay. So we're gonna go on to the next question. Okay. So let's talk about the different types of support. Okay. We kind of umbrellaed it with support. Okay. Safe spaces that provide that support for you. So when we think about support, right, there's support that can feel like relief. And then there's support that can sometimes feel like more work. And I know y'all women know what I'm talking about, right? How do we distinguish between the two? Let's start with you, Jeannie. What emotional cues tell us that support is conditional, maybe misaligned, or even in some situations unsafe?
Yeah, the good stuff. Let's just get right back into it, huh? Ugh. So, when we're in these situations where we are having this hypervigilance about asking for help, when we are in these situations where we're feeling indebted in some ways before we've even said, hey, can you please, in any way, when we're leaving interactions and we feel afterwards smaller than when we even came in, those are our cues that we know that we're misaligned in whatever the support is that we're giving. When I'm exchanging with my people, with the people who I know have me, the minute I ask for help, sometimes I don't even get to ask for help before they're already offering help. We're that in tune with one another. Actually, I don't even need to sometimes tell them that something's wrong. They already can tell in my body language that something's wrong, that I'm depleted, and that there's something that needs to be added here. Their work oftentimes is in helping me differentiate between if this is the kind of help that I can come to with my own mind, if I just bring it down and take better care of myself, or if they actually need to step in. But yeah, if I'm feeling guilt, if I'm experiencing hypervigilance before I'm asking for help, looking around for like, is it okay? Is this a good moment? Is this the right time? Things like that. If I'm, again, feeling indebted in those situations, that usually is my cue that I'm not in a place where I feel safe in the emotional support that's going on here. And that emotional unsafety doesn't necessarily have to be due to the community and who I'm asking. It could be that's the place that I am in, and I need to work at that as well. I need to get some help for that as well. Because as we know, high impact, high energy, high sustainability achieving women, they like to function alone. And so when they're outside of that independence and they actually need help, it feels really uncertain for them. And like we've talked about before, just because you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong or bad. Just because you have strong feelings about them, that might be negative emotions. Again, doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong or bad. It just means it is uncomfortable and it is unfamiliar.
I love that so much, Jeannie, because you really hit on why we do Wealthy and Worthy and why we're having our live event. And listen, in August, y'all don't be playing. Early bird tickets are on sale. Oh, actually, let me say that. Early bird tickets went on sale this week. Okay, so we're officially live for Wealthy and Worthy. So make sure y'all grab y'all tickets. It's 20% off right now for our early bird. But part of why we were really inspired to create this space really was because of what Jeannie just mentioned, right? We are used to, and we can be sometimes conditioned by either family, circumstance, or culture to operate in isolation. And it's not to say that it didn't work, because many of you are still dominating and killing it in the game, right? However, what we're very clear of is that it costs you something. And whether that's relationships, whether that's yourself, whether that's memories or time and experiences with your children or your family, it costs you. The cost to do this alone is real expensive. And we don't want you to feel like that is the choice, the only choice, because it's not. And so we invite you, right, to come into these conversations, and we offer up to you new ways of thinking and being, because we want to invite you into this space, because there is support. There are people who are ready and willing and able to show up for you. And oftentimes that operating in isolation and that hyper independence can sometimes really just be a trauma response. And it can be something that you learned in survival, but it no longer serves you in this season. And so it can then start to create more problems than it does solutions for you. And when that happens, it can be very, very disruptive and very disorienting, because you might feel lost. You might feel like, what is happening? You might even start to lose relationships because of that realization that you're not in survival anymore. So now you have an opportunity to reinvent yourself and to reintroduce yourself to yourself, because burning the candle at both ends, right? It's bright for a little bit, right? But as we know, it will burn the candle out way faster. And that is just how it works. So we want to invite you all into new spaces and new conversations so that we can offer up these perspectives and invite you into a new way, right? Offer up a new way. So passing it over to you, Dr. J, right? From a health perspective, what does false support look like? Is it that quick GLP-1 shot? Is it, and I say this because I know you and I had a full-blown conversation about this and how everybody just thinks that's the answer. Okay, I'm gonna let you speak to that. But what do you view as soft support for the women that are watching this live?
Yes. So false support, from a health perspective, I would say it would be just number one, a lot of quick fixes. There's a lot of quick diets out there, right? All of us have different medical histories. We have different genetic predispositions. And it is important to identify that. It is important to recognize that, because just because someone had a specific plan work for them doesn't mean that it'll work for you, right? And so I would say not just jumping, to a specific diet or anything like that because you've seen it work for a friend, so you think it's going to work for you. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way. I would say also, like recognizing who you are, so you spoke about community, but recognizing who you're in community with, right? Because sometimes those friends that you have may not support you in the way that you really do need to be supported, right? I see this, a lot with entrepreneurs, right? And so you have a business and you're creating your business, but you have friends who are like, oh, well, like you think you different because you going to conferences now? Like, what's going on with that? Like, you can't talk to us because you got to work on your business. You know what I mean? And so, and then that also leads into stress, right? So now you're like second guessing yourself, wondering, can I even do this business? And that can certainly impact your health. It can impact your sleep. It can impact your menstrual cycle, your nervous system, your autoimmunity. And so who we connect with also has a big impact on our health. And so ensuring that the people that you are in community with are the people that are going to help you within the season that you're in. It doesn't mean that you have to cut them off, you know. It's just that I can't communicate with you in this way because I need to start this business. I need to launch this business. I need to grow this business. And every time that you speak to me, I'm second guessing myself, and I can't do that right now. Right.
Oh.
And so understanding like who we are in community with. And then also with physicians and doctors and medical professionals, everybody's different, right? I know that, sometimes you're with a doctor that doesn't work for you, right? And so understanding what type of relationship you want to have with your doctor, right? Like, do you need to have a doctor who's going to allocate enough time for you, right? Like, do you want to be, and there's different price points for that too, right? And so like you may need a concierge doctor, right? Because they have an hour, they've created their business in a way to meet the needs of a specific type of person, right? And so if you want to sit down with your doctor for an hour, or there are specific services that you want, you may need to look around at other doctors that may fit your needs, right? Like if you are in your doctor's visit and you're like, oh, they only spoke to me for 5 minutes, it's not always their fault. It's just that their model, the way that their business is designed, the way that their business structure is designed, is that they have in order for them to be profitable, they have to have high volume. And unfortunately, if you're someone that I need time and I need communication, that just may not be for you, right? And so just thinking about, okay, well, especially when it comes to our health, and let's say, you have not seen a doctor, or you haven't gone to your doctor because you don't even like your doctor. So it's thinking, okay, well, what type of relationship do I want to have with my doctor? I want somebody who's caring and personable, who sits down and looks me in the eye, right? And so even thinking about that type of support, like what that would look like.
Love that. Oh, I love that. I love that you raised the level of, or the type of support in a health context, right? Like, I know you're a medical expert, but I don't think that we think about that or even realize that. Like, even in my series, the doctor said cancer came back. I've had people comment or DM me and say, I didn't even know I could fire my doctor, or I didn't know that I could interview doctors. And I'm like, heck yeah. I'm interviewing you. Like, you are there to serve me. I am paying for this service, right? But there's so much in that world that I think we can be intimidated by, and we don't always understand that can be a safe space as well. And it's a critically important safe space to help us get to our next level, right? So when we talk about safe spaces that hold your next level, we're not just talking about how to make more money or how to, dominate in your career. We're talking about whole life success, right? How do you support your next level psychologically? How do you support your next level mentally and physically and spiritually and physically, right? How do you do that? And so it's so important that you all take this insight into perspective, because it can change your life. And we will continue to have more targeted health focused conversations as the year rolls on. I think we have one specifically coming up in April, which is Month of Hope. And we'll be talking a lot about breast cancer. And for me, as a breast cancer survivor, breast cancer thriver, we are going to want to have that conversation, because there's so much about it that I don't think we talk about enough. And I don't talk about it a ton, just because it's not who I am.
Yeah, it's not your identity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a part of my story, and it's not unique, but it's mine. And so I want to offer that up to our community as well, because I do think it's critically important. So good, so good. Thank you so much for that. Okay, we're gonna wind down, okay, because I just realized that we are like coming up on our time. So okay, we're gonna end with this one. All right. And this is really going to be focused on, or it's going back to double tap on strong woman versus strong environment. Okay. So the question that I have is, where do each of you most often see women trying to become stronger instead of choosing a stronger environment? And when we say environment, we're talking about, it can be anything. It can be partner, interpersonal relationship, it can be friendships, it can be work, it can be physical, whatever that looks like. I'm very curious to know, where do you all see that show up? Let's toss it right back to you, Dr. J. How do women like sometimes maybe misinterpret like that fatigue or the weight change or those hormonal shifts and see those things as kind of personal deficits instead of environmental shortages?
Yeah, I think that we get so accustomed to powering through that we use powering through in every facet of our lives, right? And so when it comes to health, um, what I see is, okay, I got to get the 10,000 steps a day. I got to be able to make sure I lift heavy weights. I got to make sure that I'm like eating this amount of calories, because we become more comfortable in like knowing what the steps are, right? Because that's how we've conditioned ourselves. Like, if I follow this path, this is going to happen, because this is how I wired myself, right? And unbeknownst to us, sometimes we can overdo it, and that can cause us not to get to our goal, right? And sometimes the trick is doing less. I had that with a lot of my clients, and just patients that I've seen, especially the high achieving ladies. They will do all this exercise and all this workout, but that's impacting your cortisol levels too. You're also you're stressing your body out more than it needs to be. Like, you're over exercising at this point, right? You are over exercising, and then the calories have to be like packaged in such a certain way, and you're undernourishing yourself. So you're overexerting yourself and you're undernourishing yourself, right? Because we're used to doing things in a tight box. It has to be this way. It needs to be perfect, and I have to like exert all this energy, and I have to have this like perfect calorie content. But guess what? We are so disconnected from our bodies. So we're expending all this energy, but we have this huge disconnect with our bodies, and we're unaware of what our body actually needs right now. So there's a complete lack of body awareness. And so yeah, that's I even forgot. I forgot.
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop right there. You just laid it all out right there, right?
Yeah.
That lack of body awareness is everything. Okay, y'all?
Everything. Really is.
Do not underestimate that, because it is really, really trying to communicate with you all the time. And like she said, we get used to, and we have conditioned ourselves. And sometimes others have conditioned us as well, but we have chosen to continue that pattern. So that is something that we have to become aware of and then intentional about, right? Because we cannot change or transform what we don't acknowledge. So that's super important. All right, Jeannie, we passing it to you, girl. Okay. So
yeah, you will pass it to me. The way you passed me the ball is amazing, because the stuff that you give me to grab onto is incredible. Thank you for saying both you and Dr. J, saying exactly what is truth as well, because we oftentimes over pathologize the individual and say, hey, she's the one who's taking on all these things, doing all the things, running herself into the ground, etc. Conditioning implies that there's a systemic influence that is conditioning you. So let us not forget, okay, that there is a system in place that where we're focused consistently on the individual when the system is actually the strain. The system conditioned us mentally to have the understanding early on, oftentimes, that love needs to be earned. And so we're overworking, right? That there was a system there. There was a family system that existed there. There was a social system that existed there that created this understanding that people pleasing is a safety strategy, right? These are the women that I see. These are the psychological patterns that they've developed when they're believing things like, I just need to toughen up. It was taught, it was learned. And yes, they did take the ball and run with it like I'm doing right now. But it was based on a conditioning system that took place. It was based on seeing and understanding that over identification with competence as a whole is going to create that dynamic where I need to at every moment feel competent. I need to at every moment project and express confidence, and understanding that I am a valuable individual. That belief that any type of need, any type of support is diminutive and demonstrates weakness is where we see that happening to the women in this life, where they're thinking, I just need to show up stronger, I just need to show up tougher. And it's because the workplace environment is encouraging that, is exploiting their toughness, is exploiting their, oh no, I got that, I can get that done, I can take care of it, I'm the best, I'm the most competent, make sure to throw me more work, make sure to that I'm going to be the one who's staying over all those extra hours to make sure that I get it done. Just so you remember in your head that Jeannie's the competent one, that Dr. J's got this, that Dr. T is going to be the one who finishes this stuff through. It's conditioning. So I'm so glad you all use that word. It's awful. Yeah.
And I think I love too, Jeannie, how you phrase that, right, as it being reinforced.
Mhm.
I also think one of the recognized forms of that system is praise.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because many times you are praised. Even I even think about myself, right? Growing up the oldest daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being praised for being the young adult.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or I can even remember people saying things like, oh, when you were a kid, we never worried about you. We never had to worry about you, right? And
That's it.
Absolutely understanding their perspective as a parent myself.
Yeah.
However, that also sent a message to me that, oh, I am more digestible when I don't have needs. I'm more pleasing to people when I don't complain and I just get the job done, right? I'm more,
take it a step further. Take it and talk about the emotional mental load that so many women have and where that started. You ever hear your parents say to you, the people around you say, gosh, Dr. T, Dr. J, you're so thoughtful. You just think about everything. You always got the things down. The wipes are there for the babies and the play date's already scheduled and you've already got the appointments on board and you've already thought about me 8,000 different ways. Yeah, I have. And you gave me all this praise for it. And I got all of this feedback about it my whole life when I lived that way. And so how do I now share the mental load with my husband, with my partner? I'm so used to doing it all the time. It's easy for me.
Listen,
He
he
doesn't have to really show up, right?
Yes, that is so true. I see that with a lot of women in my in my practice, unfortunately. And I will tell you too, there's another side of it because my husband is like one of those husbands who is super involved. And the other day, somebody asked me actually on LinkedIn, are there certain tasks that my husband just owns when it comes to our children? And I was like, oh, actually, he does all the laundry. He does he gets all the school clothes ready every day. And then he keeps track of all the calendars because my kid has Spirit Week every month, right? and you got all these fancy things each day, right? It's just way too much, right? But even as I wrote it out to respond to the person, I like felt a little shame about it. And I was like, oh, oh, it's like, do I feel shame that I'm not overseeing that? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm so glad that I don't have to think about that.
That he's able to be the father that he wants to be, and that we're able to have our specialties in our parenting styles. Yeah,
and I love that for him. Like,
I do. It looks good on him. He's a great guy.
Love that for him.
Shout out and happy belated birthday to Dr. Charles Rogers.
I definitely will. Okay, ladies. So as we wrap up this discussion today, right? Okay, so we're gonna do a round robin. So in one sentence, what is the most important thing that a high achieving woman should remember about safe spaces? Either one of you can start. What is the most important thing for her to remember about safe spaces?
I think, she really needs to keep her eyes open to spaces where her ambition is just less biologically expensive as a whole. Like when you are truly supported, you have reduced stress, you're not feeling under threat all the time. Your body is not, I don't know if y'all feel this when you're with someone who like really, or in environments that really don't suit you, but I feel this like deep tension consistently. And then when I'm out of it, I just release. I feel such a relief. Like my body feels such a relief. My mind feels such a relief. I'm not consistently overthinking. I know that I'm in like a threatening kind of space when my mind is going and overthinking. So just trying to ensure that you are in spaces where that ambition feels just calm, and the cadence, you can move on your own. It's not so biologically expensive. When it is biologically expensive, it just isn't for you. That's just the honest truth of it.
I love that. Dr. J, what you got? What's the most important thing high achieving women must remember about safe spaces?
I think that it's important to remember that you are the safe space first. And it goes down to being aware of what your values are, what you want to be intentional about, what season you are in right now. Because once you develop that awareness, and it comes to, spiritual awareness, mental, body awareness, you can be more intentional about selecting safe spaces for you.
Love that. I love that. I love that so much. Thank you both today. Y'all dropped some good gems today. And I will leave y'all with mine. The number one thing that I want you to remember about safe spaces is that they do not have to be earned. Safe spaces do not have to be earned. You are deserving of them. If you do nothing, you're deserving of them, because safety is what we all deserve and are all worthy of. So that is what I'm going to leave you with today. And as we wrap up today's discussion, I want to invite you all to make sure you subscribe, like, reshare, do all the things to make sure that you're staying connected with us each week. We are live every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. And next week, we are going to continue the conversation around safe spaces to really double down on what is the cost of being the strong one. What does it cost you? Because like we said earlier in this discussion, right, you may have gotten here alone, but it wasn't without cost, right? And so part of being wise is making sure that we count the cost and we understand what different decisions cost us in our lives. And so we're going to jump into that conversation next week. So we would love to have y'all join us, and make sure you if you're watching this in the replay, let us know where you're tuning in from, and drop us any questions and any topics that you want us to cover on Wealthy and Worthy Wednesday, because listen, we're here to support y'all and offer up this space of reflection and awareness and support. So we're sending y'all so much love, and we will check in again with y'all next week. Same place, same time. Bye.
Bye.